Hey folks, Doom Wizard here.
I'm Flandag.
Magic Mike.
I'm Hick the Necromancer.
I thought that would be kind of fun to do. We sit around and talk about stuff while we watch Svengoolie on Saturday nights, three or four of us when we get together. And I thought it'd be kind of fun since we're all here to maybe sit around the table and actually talk about some stuff. And one of the things I wanted to talk about was a Facebook post that I saw. And what we're going to talk about basically is clerics and magic users. But before we do that, if you like what we're doing, let us know down below. Hit the like, subscribe button. Uh, Leave a comment. Let us know your thoughts. Ring the bell. And now to the magic of editing. So a while back, I saw this post on one of the D&D groups on Facebook where they were talking about clerics. And particularly, they were talking about can clerics turn demons? I don't ever remember having that be an option. So I was reading a bunch of the comments, and for the life of me, I can't find the post now because I looked on all the groups that I belong to. Maybe it came down, I don't know. But I did some digging around, and the first thing I noticed was these books are a hot mess.
Yeah.
The player's handbook is mostly organized. The DM's guide, not so much. But what I did find out though was the short answer is yes. The long answer is it depends on your DM. Where first of all, finding the turning charts was difficult, but I managed to track them down. And there's a little clause that says that certain high level clerics. It doesn't give a number. It just says certain high level clerics. If the DM allows it, can turn certain hit dice, demons and minor demons and stuff like that.
Okay.
But it's never really explained how it happens, and I don't ever remember being allowed to do that. I remember back in the day we would run into demons all the time because we were junior high and the succubi is topless, so
Right.
they were going to pop up a lot. And
Well, of course, Satan was entering our minds. So
yeah,
That's right.
yes, and that's the other thing is they when second edition came out, they changed the demons into uh like Baitsu or something like that they called them.
Yeah, that's
So they weren't demons,
They're
but they were
bots.
evil. They were an evil race, and I guess fourth edition they brought the demons back and kept the Baitsu and the Tanarai. I forget how you pronounce them, and I don't have my monster
It's
manual.
Tanari, I think.
Tanari, okay.
Because you can play one now in 5th edition.
Oh, can you?
Yeah, half Tanari. Yeah. I think it's Tanari.
Good luck with that running your fifth edition.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I got to thinking about it. I'm like, and of course, my brain went, okay, how can I incorporate this into Gibbous Moon? Because you're gonna run into demons and stuff in my game. So so there I am making charts for it and stuff, and I just got to thinking, I wanted to come here and ask you guys your thoughts on whether or not you think clerics, and we can generally talk about clerics in general if you want to. Like, what are your thoughts on the idea? Like, I always thought it was ludicrous that a cleric couldn't, because it's. I mean, we've all seen The Exorcist.
Yeah.
Now granted, Max von Sydow would probably be a very high level cleric, but and some demons, like I said, I was doing some research this morning. Some demons would get would be repelled by certain artifacts and stuff like that.
Right.
But I'm like, why did one, if they could always do it, which apparently they could, why it never came up when I was playing when we were in like junior high, when we fought demons all the time. I think my DM was a masochist, but or a sadist. But I was just curious.
Well, couple thoughts I would have is number one, I don't think anyone ever played high enough level to get to the point where you could turn a demon.
I think
my
that's
guess
the
is
point of that.
my guess is it's at least 20th level, or
Yeah.
would have been in the first edition or the early editions of D&D.
Right.
But by the time second came around, I mean, the whole idea of turning undead as a regular cleric power is not true.
Mhm.
If you look, at one time I sat down and read through the whole second edition player's handbook in detail, took detailed notes. And clerics, there's a option where a turning undead is just one granted power of a cleric.
Right.
You can have other granted powers. You
Oh,
could
yeah.
have a cleric that can't turn undead at all.
Right.
And so, my guess is if you were a demon hunting cleric, kind of like Solomon Kane, you would figure out a way to give that be his granted power. So I don't think there'd be any problem with doing it. You would just make it a granted power, a witch finder or something like that, where you just create that. Because now they have, you could be a cleric that wields an axe because your god wields an axe. That was also an
Yeah.
option in D&D.
That's how we.
Yeah.
That's what we ended up doing
Yeah, we did.
because when the one I forget what was it, Tyr?
Yeah,
No, Tyr's a bow. One of the Norse gods, I think their symbol is a sword.
yeah,
And it's like, why the hell can't my cleric who worships that god wield a sword?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So when in a footman's mace and a sword, the damage is pretty much
Yeah.
the same.
Well, we even played the granted power option sometimes with our clerics because sometimes you play a cleric like a mage where you have to memorize certain prayers.
Mhm.
We just said that's stupid. The cleric basically, because we had like these handbooks of cleric spells.
Mhm.
What the cleric does is you pray to your god to intervene in the situation, and you just find the spell that matches that.
Mhm.
So we don't even have memorized, like when we play clerics, you basically have options to, it's up to your imagination. How clever are you in the moment,
Mhm.
to wish, pray for your god, and then your god grants you the power to do that.
Yeah.
And so we got away from it being clerical spells, and we just changed to granted powers. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'm sure you could probably just take the turning undead chart and slap demons in there,
Right,
Yeah.
and just I turn demons instead. So
Well, on the in the turning undead section,
mhm,
there when you get like high up a level, there's like a double asterisk,
yeah,
and you go to the double asterisk, and it's like this is meant basically for demons
yeah.
and minor devils and that kind of thing. But to your point, did any of us ever get that high in level? I think it was relegated for NPCs.
I only
honestly.
know my second DM. He and his best friend, they were the only two they knew who played D&D,
Mhm.
so they would gain for each other,
Mhm.
and then my character who in your game becomes an NPC in my game.
Yeah.
So they're the only two people I know who ever achieved 20th level. I mean, and of course they became the gods of our realm.
Sure.
And so, but yeah, so other than that, I don't know people that,
Hmm.
I'm sure there's people out there who got that high,
Right.
but I mean, I think right now the highest level I ever had was a maybe 10th or 11th level
Oh.
character. So I think,
I've got one character that's about 18th level,
okay.
and that's as good as I've got.
Yeah.
And I've had that character since junior high. So
Yeah.
See, I always assumed that they could turn demons. I thought I remembered it being on the chart, but I might be wrong.
no, there's a
It says special,
Yeah.
like in
Yeah.
the DM's guide.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this little thing.
And you
says
could also
special.
do it by hit die in the turning undead. So if a demon, if you do it by hit dice,
what I would do, and I'm probably gonna do in Gibbous Moon is for the turning chart that I end up creating for these guys. Failing to do so will have disastrous consequences.
yeah,
Like some drag me to hell stuff.
yeah.
Just because do you want to risk you want to risk doing that?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to kill my player characters, but I want to have it be dramatic.
Mhm, sure.
Mhm.
I don't think I ever ran any clerics that I either played or had parties who had
Mhm.
clerics that ever got that high in level who could turn a demon or a devil.
Mhm.
No, I might have been in the same Facebook group. I posted a question about like basically how people ran just like the mechanics of turning. Like
Mhm.
did you have to be in line of sight of this thing, or if it's just your aura around you was like were like undead behind you still run away, or did you have to like shove your holy symbol kind of like toward them and like
Yeah.
like Peter Cushing and the candlesticks. That's how I always did it.
Yeah.
Figuring like, well, like, if you don't even know a zombie is there,
Mhm.
and it's like, but I suppose if you're a high enough level cleric, then like your aura would just be so powerful. It
It's so
probably would
funny.
stay away from you.
Yeah, it's so funny you bring that up. So my son plays second edition D&D with his friends on Wednesday nights.
Mhm.
And this debate came up
Oh,
two
wow.
Wednesdays ago. So
These many
it's
decades
so
later.
funny. It's so funny because we had to, and I'm sitting on the couch, and so they were trying to bring me in as the referee between
As the
The arbiter.
the elder statesman of
the
D&D.
seasoned,
Yes.
you
So
know,
the argument was they had built there were zombies attacking the town, so they had built barriers up. They built, just they found any wood they could find and they stacked them in diagonal. So they were trying to, can my cleric turn undead when they can't see him?
mhm.
And so I said, well, you didn't build a wall, you just laid sticks. So maybe
Sure.
they could see the holy symbol through the trees. But then we came, I said, give me your player's handbook. Let me look it up. So while they're debating, I'm sitting there reading as fast as I can back to the cleric. And it turns out, I said, there's nothing saying it has to be. We always played it with the shining, your holy symbol shined out bright light and scared all. You can make it the sound of your booming voice frightens the undead. So they decided like that they would pray loudly and their god would turn them away.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be line of sight
Well,
necessarily. That's the rule they came up with.
if I remember how AD&D played it out, it was you have to basically step forward ahead.
That's what it's
your party and
yes.
make your presence known. And,
Yes.
say you're.
That's what he did. He climbed up on he didn't have to show a symbol, but he boomed out his voice in the name of, his God.
Right.
I turn thee. And I'm like, I said, story wise, that's cool enough for
Yeah.
me, so we let it, if it makes the narrative go along, then that's really cool. So, I think clerics always seem to be like such a rule-based class, and no one ever wanted to play him. Somebody had to. You had to have a healer. But really, if you read into
Hide
it,
and heal.
if you read into it, you could do all kinds of things with clerics.
I liked playing clerics just because you could turn undead.
Yeah,
like you
yeah.
did some cool stuff with
Yeah,
undead.
yeah.
Like
Yep.
I thought that was really fun.
Yeah,
So yeah, when I played clerics, I'm like, yeah, man, throw me at the undead creatures.
Yeah.
I want them.
yeah.
Yeah.
I always thought clerics were weird because what is the precedent in literature for the cleric character?
That's a good question.
There really isn't one.
I mean,
Yeah, there are priests and stuff.
Right.
The Crusaders. I always thought it was based on the Crusaders.
Yeah.
I see that.
the book describes them as like something like historically speaking, they kind of mirror certain classes of and orders of like religious figures and stuff or something like that. My eyesight is terrible, so I can't read it verbatim, but yeah, so it was taken from that. I just assumed the Crusaders, which is my whole bone of contention against not being able to carry swords,
Right.
or being your mission, pun intended. Your mission as a cleric is to destroy the undead. Well, the king of the undead is the vampire.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to have here? Take the stake.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Right.
When you always see Van Helsing, like know. So that's why I never had a problem with letting clerics carry swords, because one damage is just as good as the next.
Yeah.
And I thought the same thing with like with their deity, like you said, carries a sword, or their symbols were like white. So I always did that too. And then I always I never did much, or if anything, with like race restrictions with class, because when I first started scrolling through, when I first got my copy of deities and demigods, I'm like, wait, there are dwarf gods in here? Why can't there be dwarf clerics? It doesn't make any sense to me.
It really really changed things.
Yeah, I was like, of course, no.
Yeah.
That's funny. But I think I remember, I don't remember which version of D&D it was, but I think I remember them saying, it might have been OD&D, that clerics were meant only to be non-player characters for this certain race, or
Mm-hmm.
like say we're dwarves or whatever. Why I don't know.
Probably because Gary didn't like
Yeah,
them.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I assume it was some way of limiting the different races,
Mm-hmm.
but because the races have their own skills and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But well, yeah, it's I mean that's a whole other issue.
Well, it's just like I didn't like the rule because he based some of it on Tolkien, or a lot of it on Tolkien, and then you get the rule where dwarves have the 20% fail chance whenever they use magic items. I'm like, they make them,
Right.
Yeah,
they are the chief.
Sure.
And so how could they have a 20% fail rate in using what they make?
To be fair, he didn't like Tolkien. He didn't like high fantasy. He liked Conan.
Yeah.
That's why magic users suck. And somebody, I don't know who it was, but somebody kept forcing in, elves and clerics and elves and stuff like that to get, to broaden the game a little bit.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, no, he liked, man goes into cave, monster pops out, man kills monster, man takes treasure.
Okay.
And as do I.
Sure.
But he was not a big Tolkien fan.
And when you think about Tolkien, there's no religion. I mean, can you think of any reference to religion in Tolkien?
It's the John Lennon of fantasy.
That's right. That's a whole other story. I mean, so technically, the wizards are a different race.
Yeah.
There really isn't. There really.
I can't think of anything.
I guess that's why clerics always seemed out of place to me. I honestly, I never. I mean, I've played clerics, but they were never my favorite.
I never liked playing clerics until I was much older and started thinking of them as undead slayers. And then a whole different perspective of what I could do popped up. When it wasn't D&D, but it was in Palladium Fantasy. I started playing undead slayers as their priests, and that's when I'm like, all right, that whole thing has changed for me now. And that's when it occurred to me. It's like, wait a minute, so I can find the vampire, but you have to kill it.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, you can use the hammer.
You hold it right. When I nod my head, you hit it.
See, and I'm just the opposite. As a lapsed Catholic, growing up a Catholic boy, I was all about clerics because we had all kinds of imagery of crusading.
Sure.
I mean, I picked Michael as my saint's name because it's a picture of the Archangel Michael in full clerical armor, with Satan under his metalled foot.
That's the most metal.
And so the crusading, figure is so embedded in Catholicism and the Crusaders. So they always made sense in that way to me, but we always played them. In fact, I was again talking with my son about this on Wednesday night because we're talking about paladins. I'm like, well, you can have a lawful good paladin, but they're really more about law. So if their society, they're gonna pick their society over people. They're gonna, the having civilization and the law and the religion is more important than the individual needs. I said, you got to think about, that's how I pictured clerics, is they're so about their God. I mean, my brother Matt used to play clerics that you had to, he wouldn't heal you unless you at least gave some notice to his God.
Sure.
So
that's pedestrian, man. You got to convert. Right. You got to convert.
Yeah,
and I will make you pray.
But like I said, we started right away getting rid of. So my clerics couldn't turn undead; they would have a different granted power. And so because I turning undead kind of, it gets. It depends on how good your DM is, how good they describe it, because it can be boring. The zombie's like, go in the corner and just walk against the corner away from you. And so,
if you're only granted power, if the only power you grant your clerics is undead turning, that means that reduces a cleric to two things: healing, and destroying the undead.
Right.
There's no fun in that.
No.
Hmm.
I mean, there's fun in destroying the undead. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it gets monotonous to be able to mix it up a little bit.
I mean, it becomes, if you play with the rules where weapon type matters against monsters, then clerics become more important. So if you're fighting something that can turn away bladed attacks and needed a bashing attack, that's what clerics are good for.
Now,
so
see,
taking on skeletons and things like that.
That's funny because most of the time, the standard response I get for why my cleric can't carry a sword is, well, they don't draw blood. And I'm like, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna get my mace.
Yeah,
sure. I'm gonna hit you upside the head.
Yeah.
But the idea of using the mace to destroy things like skeletons is great, but that still doesn't make any sense about not being able to spike a vampire.
Right. No, I agree. No, the rule. I mean, there are many D&D rules that are strange. That's why you have house rules, and so you just ignore them. I mean, off a different class. I mean, when you talk about a wizard, and even D&D couldn't do it. So when you have the wizard and you have all the components and you have somatic and you have to move your hands a certain way, and if God forbid you get hit, if your initiative's high and you get hit first, your spell doesn't go off. When they did the advanced Dungeons and Dragons comic, they couldn't even do it. It was just like Ishkabibble, the girl, the silver-haired elf sorceress, whoever she was. All she did was point and fire.
Say like the power word, and it was probably backwards like Zatanna. But
I think Dragonlance was the only D&D product where spell components were actually used in the novels. So it like there's just certain rules I think are.
Oh, like when Raceland jumps out of the building up in the tree and just says feather fall and floats.
Well, but
the components that were used.
Well, listen. There's a whole thing about the components he carries on his
he
uses them in other chapters.
I just to be reading a novel and then get taken out by him going featherfall.
Yeah,
it's like that's what you could do.
Yeah. I didn't say they were greatly written.
I like when if I have any players who are playing magicians or even clerics, like if their spells have components, I always like give them those components for free. That's not, and don't really like you have to like throw this pinch of dust to do your spell, but just to see what they'll do with them. Like and later, it's like, hey, I've got this roll of copper wire. I can do this, and just like it's like giving them like a junk drawer. It's like here you go, just play with it, and just it can make for some fun situations.
Yeah,
that's what I like about game systems, that when you're generating your character, you can roll up like a bunch of random trinkets.
Oh yeah,
junk just to have on you, not just gear,
right?
But just random thing, random like 5e has a really neat little it's like 100. They have a huge chart for just having like a random item.
My brother Matt we're playing a 5th edition module right now, but he's modified it for 2nd edition. But every town has the doohickey store is what we call it. You just go in and you get a bird skull with a small pen through it, or like why, and so
it's like Bailey's.
It's dozens of deals on Highway 20. That used to be there in Michigan City,
or a combination dozens of deals head shop.
And so he does that. We used to play. I used to like how the Amber novels did it. So for me, the difference between a wizard and a cleric is a wizard, when you're studying your spells, I do it like Zelazny did. So you hang the spell there, you prep it the night before, hanging there waiting to activate, and then the gesture and the word is what sets off the spell. So that's how we got rid of components, and we're like it's just somatic, and
we use that for talisman.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why. Yeah, Zelazny was a big influence on me. So. But I don't know. I think one of my first characters was we played Greek mythos, and he was a Greek god. He worshipped cleric. He worshipped. He ended up with one of the staff of the serpents. So his whole I ended up everything he did was snake related. So everything, and that made it cool. I mean, I think you can make. It's the character that makes the class cool, based on it. And so, but some of the rules just don't, the restrictions just don't make sense. But I get it. I mean, otherwise you end up with Gandalf. You end up with a sword wielding wizard who can do everything, and so
I don't see the problem in that.
Well,
as someone who likes to play sword wielding wizard,
Yeah,
I don't see the problem.
Yeah, that's true. You could play multi-class. So
We never used spell components, but do they actually tell you what the components are?
some of them some of them they do.
Second edition,
Aiden plays with spell components in his game.
Yeah, second edition gives it, and the spell will list what the component is,
and then you can go buy it if you get one of the supplement books had where you can buy it all.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
it's kind of ironic because my game that I created, Grimoire, is all about having like difficult to find.
Yeah, that's the whole. That's the whole.
Yeah. Part of it is, and so when they get to the higher level spells, and in second edition, it also had where part of what you're supposed to do in second edition is when you're not in the dungeon, what are you doing? And so because there was a method where you could give experience only fighters got experience points for killing things. Everyone else got their experience points by doing things in their class. So as a wizard, you would have to that gave a reason for having all the gold that you get sometimes in a game. You'd have to go buy all these expensive components, and then sometimes you have to burn through a bunch of them to make one higher level spell. And so you end up, it's going to cost you, if you want to have that spell in your book that you can use in the future, it's going to cost you $1,500 the first time you do it. And then after that, you've got to have, 100 gold to blow on the components. So it made a good use of money if you wanted to play that.
And then a fighter just walks up and kills the monster.
Correct.
It's like all day.
Yeah.
You're busy economizing and saving your gold pieces, and the fighter just walks up and kills whatever all day, every day.
That's why I don't like spells taking 7 rounds to go off, because every DM knows the monster's going after the wizard. So so if you're trying to that wizard would never get a spell off, and so we don't play that either. Casting time, I never was a big fan of casting time. Yeah. Well, if we're gonna do casting time, we do it for the spells that aren't combat related. So if you're gonna do identify, you're going to spend 12 hours trying to do that. So that wizard's busy for 12 hours, like studying all the new items you got. So we'll play casting time where it, again, makes sense in the story. Where it makes sense in the story.
Well, the silly thing about casting time, now everybody knows that D&D magic system is based on what they call the Vancian magic, which is based on the Jack Vance Dying Earth books. Which, if you can find them, I highly recommend it. They're amazing. They're just a bunch of short stories, like 4 books. In that game, in that story, in that world, what the wizards do is like when they're going to go on a quest, like go explore something or do something. That morning, the wizard will get the spells that he wants, get them primed and ready to go, and then when he's out in the field and he needs them, he just says Shazam, and the spell goes off.
Yeah.
So it just proves my point that the man hated wizards, because why would you base your magic system on the Jack Vance stories and then make it where they have these casting times? Meanwhile, your elf is over there just 27 arrows in 30 seconds. Your fighter's like he's running through the place like John Cleese.
Yeah.
And you're like, hold on, I'm almost there. And then the smoke clears and your spell goes off, but everybody's already dead.
Yeah, I mean, and I suppose if he was a sword and sorcery fan, I mean, your player characters aren't going to be sorcerers and wizards.
That's why he didn't want to.
Yeah, they're the bad guys. They're the bad guys.
Yep.
I mean, I mean, yes, there's in the Conan movie, there's the good wizard. I won't do that.
Yes.
But is he really a wizard? But anyway, so so
he professes to be
a wizard. Yes, but those are your bad guys, and so I could see why that would make sense. But yeah, I mean, Aiden's on his Wednesday night group. He's got a guy that apparently has fallen in love with Pathfinder, and so he just sits there and is just angry about how weak D&D wizards are. It just makes him angry because apparently 5th edition and Pathfinder, they're nerfed. And so but Yeah. I mean, it is frustrating for some people because you've only got a D4 for your hit points, so you're going to be the one. I mean, we always have to in a party. The wizards are always buried in the middle of the party because you're worried they're going to get killed.
That's like I told Atticus because his first character in Aiden's game was a wizard, and I'm like, everyone's going to make fun of you till you hit about 5th level.
Yeah.
So just hide.
Yeah. Guard the door.
Yep. Yes.
Yeah. It's just.
Yeah. I always thought they should start out more powerful though, because I mean, one assumes that before you hit first level, you spent time mastering your.
It isn't even an assumption; it's in the books.
Yeah. So that's why when I would run a game and someone was playing a magic user, I would always give that character detect magic and read magic for free because I thought that's the first two things you would learn in magic school. Like, why does that have to be like why does that have to be a spell I'm gonna have to learn? Like that's the first thing they teach you.
So basic fantasy does that.
Is it?
It gives you read magic right off the bat.
Yeah.
Because how else are your spells written?
And then I did this like I have a guy in my Sunday group who's running Illusionist, so I did this kind of thing with him. But like once I would have those kind of characters reach 5th level, I would say, okay, like one time a day for free, you can cast read and detect magic. You don't have to like rememorize it. And then so my Illusionist, like you can detect an illusion for free, one time a day because like your 5th level, like you've done this spell hundreds of times,
right?
And it's like, yeah, okay, that's just like. If you want to do it twice a day, okay, you're gonna have to rememorize it. But that's how I would always run those kind of characters. Just because again, it's the basic stuff they would already know from like their first day at magic school.
Yeah.
Magic 101.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. How to read this magic book that you're going to write.
Yes.
And I was like,
And everybody always takes magic missile as their first spell, but I always thought find familiar was the best.
I like sleep.
Sleep is good too.
Yeah.
Find familiar gives you the ability to, when you have this familiar, you can do stuff all the time. You don't have to cast it. You have the familiar.
Yep.
It adds to your hit points, and you can basically spy on people or whatever.
My friend has run the same wizard for 25 years, and he's got a pseudo dragon familiar who has bailed us out on so many occasions because it can scout ahead. It can, it can cast spells. That they can share spells now, and so
that's same thing. Like the Sunday group, the magic user thief, and that she just got not too long ago a crow familiar, and like they were like, can the crow go ahead and scout like the town? Like absolutely, the can. And then man, they're so cashing in on that.
And we like kept improving the DM. Like, at first it was just impulses, but then as he's leveled up, like to 9th, 10th level, now he understands the pseudo dragon much better. So it can communicate more. So before it would be, I don't know, I forget what it was like when he first started out. It would just be like he'd see when it was danger, it was like bright light and then like in your eyes, and so like warning him. Now he actually gets fuller pictures from it. So people just kind of, I've noticed people develop their own rules for it to make it more interesting. So but find familiar is a cool one. That's a great spell.
Imagine if you could like see through the eyes of your your familiar, and you get like a dog, and like all you see is like yourself licking yourself.
Smelling.
Or unfortunately, everything's like black and white, so you can't tell anyone. The purple robed evil wizard.
Yeah.
No, everyone's in robes, but don't familiar with.
The one getting back to Clerics for a moment, one Cleric spell that I put like a bonus thing in because I think it's fun is the command spell, which that's just like one word. But I make it like it's a word per level.
Oh, okay.
Which really makes people think about what they're gonna say because like okay, I've got 5 words. How do I phrase this? And like it's like see how and then sometimes they screw it up.
That's
you don't have to say 5 words, but you can say up to 5 words. And like so those like they'll like be writing out sentences like okay, how no that's not right.
That do contractions work?
Right, exactly.
That's how we deal with wishes because DMs are such jerks when it comes to wishes. So you spend hours trying to word your wish so nothing bad happens to you. Yeah.
Right.
But
have a lawyer write it up for you.
That wish spell.
Yeah.
That's a dangerous thing to give. It's like handing a chimpanzee a loaded revolver.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
Yeah. No, I just introduced in my my long running game. God, it's been going on for 25 years, 30 years. They're now fighting demons, but so they don't really understand them because they don't know what demons are.
Sure.
So demons aren't the demons I have finally cracked through the firmament to get to this realm, and so they're the first time they've gotten to this realm, so they're really trying to struggle with what these things are. So nothing, none of their spells work, because it's a new creature.
So then what are you going to do when your cleric puts 2 and 2 together and asks if he can turn said demon? If you've been playing, let's say, I assume you 25 years,
they're
you probably got a
levels.
pretty high level cleric.
If they can figure it out, I would let them do it. Yeah, I would let them try. And I think I always try to make turning undead more dramatic. So to me, it's kind of like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. They go back to the realm they came from. So they kind of, they don't just run against a wall.
Right.
So I would think turning a demon would drive. Well, my demons have to right now. They're weaker, so they have to possess something. So they have to possess, so they would drive it out of the creature back to its realm is what we're doing. And so
is Don in this group? Has Realm showed up yet?
No.
Okay.
No Realm. No Realm. Yeah.
Here's hoping he's not watching the video.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Yeah. No, they know it's demon kind of some kind. So, but
and I assume there are spells, higher level spells that deal with demons, right?
Sure, I'm not sure there are.
Gotta be, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember what they are off the top of my head. But
There's like Soul Jar and things like that. You can trap them. Yeah.
That was my album title.
Yeah. So
it's like protection. I mean, that's a low level spell, protection from evil.
And that works against everything evil, I assume.
Yeah,
it does.
So, yeah.
Oh.
No, then
except for Blast.
It's interesting how druids are subclasses of clerics and not magic users.
Yeah.
In some ways, that's an interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah,
because it's nature based magic.
Yeah,
but
yeah, especially when we have like Wicca and stuff like that. That's considered magic.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, they have spell books for it, so I assume.
I think in some cultures, I mean, like say ancient Greece, for example, the sorcerers were really just kind of priests. I mean, they would do what they were doing was because of their, they followed a certain god or whatever.
Right.
Like Medea and Circe were both, they were related. It was Circe's niece or something. I can't remember, but they were related to Helios, the god of the sun. And I guess he was associated with magic somehow. And that's why they had all their special powers.
Circe and Medea would make a great sitcom.
It would.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, you have the set up like Three's Company, but there's pillars and stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. Druids and they can carry clubs and scimitars.
Right.
So you have like a cleric subclass who can use a sword. I just thought of that.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
But they were making this stuff up as they were going along. It became their rule, and the chances are none of us were playing it right to begin with because there's no real way to play it.
No, when I tried reading, I really wanted to play second edition as close as I could to the book. And when I read the book, and it just made the game unplayable. To play every rule in the second edition player's handbook there's rules about, changing the underlying garments under your armor because eventually they rot and smell with your own stink. And so if you don't get that changed and cleaned regularly, that affects your armor class. I mean, that's a rule.
Wow.
If you want to play, if I were 12 again and could stay up all weekend, then yes, maybe I'd play by those rules. But not now. Now,
right.
Yeah. And quite frankly, I think everyone I play with, we've just gotten to the point where we just make up our own stuff anyway.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna play a straight, you might be thinking you're fighting a goblin, but they're not a goblin.
Yeah.
Or you might be, you think you found a wand of magic missiles, but you really haven't. So I mean, we constantly change things up just to make it interesting.
Yeah. And sometimes I like doing the opposite because it's interesting. We're like, you think you're not fighting just a goblin, but it really is just a goblin. You're like,
exactly.
ah!
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah,
oh god, I
yeah,
know it. Or like,
yeah.
it's really just an empty room. And
Correct.
like, there's got to be something here.
Correct.
That's fun to throw in every now and then.
Yeah, I always try to freak people out when I DM, just by asking them questions.
Oh yeah.
You sure? Are you gonna touch the ground?
Yeah. Because you gotta have some kind of fun,
right?
Yeah.
Where are you stepping on the floor?
Yes. Where is everyone in the room when that happens?
Yeah.
I was over here.
I mean, I think part of it is just, I just want people to have fun and have a good time. And so you kind of figure out what each of your players is, how, to what type of player, and see if you can't make the game work for them together so that they want to keep coming and play. So
that's another reason why I would keep the character sheets back in the day.
Yeah.
Was because then in my free time, I could sit there and go through your sheets and go, oh, well, it would be interesting if this person that they know shows up.
Yeah.
Or, what good is what good is King Arthur without Excalibur?
Correct.
So, like, you've got this kind of character, and eventually you probably you get the chance to find this particular thing.
Yeah.
You want to make it entertaining for the players, for sure.
Or you, like a player gets some just random magic item in a hall. Like, okay, what would be a fun way to get them to use that?
Yeah.
And just like, that's a fun like mechanic you can throw in now and then.
I would like to limit, I would give people magic items, but they'd be limited in some way, so they weren't as powerful. Like, my favorite thing I did was that they found a ring of invisibility, but it wouldn't make your clothes invisible. So you had to, basically be naked in order to use it, and you wouldn't have any weapons or anything on you.
That's nice.
And so, they use it to sneak into a place, but then they didn't have any weapons.
Nobody do. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's like the naked thing. Our friend Glenn, he does a lot of stuff for Palladium, and he does a lot of research on the monsters that he creates for the games. And he did the official write up for Wyverns. And after his extensive research, he came up with the fact that Wyverns were terrified of naked people. So we encountered this Wyvern, and I had I forget what type of magic user I was. I take off all my clothes, and then I grew to be like 18 feet tall. And I'm like, and the Wyvern flies away.
Right.
And then we're going back in the town, and Glenn's like, aren't you going to shrink down? No. So I'm just
still naked.
Yeah.
Still naked. But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I don't know why you couldn't, I mean, I would just say make your, if you're making a special demon hunting cleric class, you just make up, you just adjust the rules for that class. That's
right.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are demon hunter classes.
Oh, I'm sure there are now.
I was just considering the most basic of the game,
Yeah.
And
I mean, yeah, it was weird. I mean, you will get, and it's funny when you get players who play other games, they question things we've always accepted. So again, Aiden's game, they had a long running argument about why would you ever want to use a flight arrow versus a sheath arrow. And so no one's ever asked that question before. And so Aiden actually did the research on it. He researched in the second edition why they had both sheath, and he figured out the answer. And
it ended up being in a proficiency book.
Yeah, proficiency book. He found why you
ferreted it away.
Yeah. Wow. So, I mean, there are just so many rules buried. I mean, once you get a game system that has multiple editions and multiple supplementary books, you can find all kinds of stuff. And so,
heck, I wrote a Facebook post in a group I'm in all about drowning. Like, I was like, how does there's nothing in these basic books about like what happens when you drown, like how you lose hit points, when you're actually dead, when you go unconscious. There's like, plenty of monsters like, oh, water will drown you. Well, how does that work game mechanic wise?
Yeah.
And someone on that group said, oh yeah, like if you find like the outdoor adventures, what like it's in there. I'm like,
yeah,
that's where I have to look. It's like, holy cow.
Hot mess.
Oh yeah, completely.
All right. Well, hey, there you have it. From clerics to magic users. This has been the Doomed Wizard Society Roundtable. I'm the Doomed Wizard.
I'm Flandag.
Yeah, and I guess I'm Magic Mike.
I'm Jericho the Druid, highest class character ever played.
All right. All right. Thanks for watching.